Hello and welcome. We're so glad to have you today at the Queen Code for Corporate Black Women. I am your host, Stacey Middlebrooks, and you are in for a treat. I am here to bring you today an incredible sister of mine. Her name is Leslie Urbas. And let me tell you, she's going to share things with you that you think you know, but I promise you, we don't know it. We don't know it. She is the master of all of these things that she's going to share today. So, Leslie Urbas is the CEO and founder of Fabulous Whole Health. Doesn't that sound juicy already? So, that'll give you some indication of what we're going to be talking about today. Leslie is a registered dietitian and guru of all things body love and exquisite self care. She's got over 14 years of experience and even more if you count her personal experience working through all of the things, all of the initiations that brought her to this place of mastery around body love and exquisite self-care. So we want to welcome in today, Leslie Urbas. Welcome, sister.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And I'm so excited that you were a yes, like an immediate yes, when I invited you to come in and have a sister chat with me about the Queen Code for Corporate Black Women. So I want to talk a little bit just about your background. Well, I want you to talk a little bit about your background and share with everyone how you arrived at this place in your life of self love and I would say even radical love and acceptance, not just of your body, but of your way of living and how you see the world. So give us just a little bit of background. Who is Leslie?
Yeah, I'll go as short as possible on my journey here, but it really does start around the time, I was 15 years old. I think maybe one time before that, had anybody ever put like weight on my list of things to be concerned about as a woman, right? I think maybe on the playground in 8th grade, a girl was like, yeah, we figured you weighed more than us. I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that means, but okay. But as I entered in high school, the most insecure time of your life, typically as a woman, you're like, am I accepted? Is I not? I entered in the doors, and within 1 week, my high school softball coach actually told me I was too fat to play varsity softball ever.
Mm,
And another girl that I was in classes with also told me I was too fat to hang out with. Now, let me explain that even at this moment, I was actually a very healthy weight for my size. I was just on the heavier end of a healthy weight for my size. So at that moment, I thought, okay, well, then I guess the view that I was provided growing up of a like 5'2", 5'3", petite, super skinny, blonde, blue-eyed girl is what I had to be. Well, I got the blonde, I got the blue eyes, so I was rolling in that. Now I just got to somehow shrink myself and lose a lot of weight to be this figure, right? So at that moment, I tried everything. I didn't go through high school like most people, enjoying the food and some of the freedom. I started calorie controlling. I started portion controlling. I never ate in the cafeteria. I did diets with my mom. Nothing was working. So my sophomore year, I decided at 16 years old, I would wake up at 5 a.m. every morning with my mom and start working out. So I still work out early. I think it's a pattern, but I also love it and now enjoy it. I do it for myself. But 5 a.m. every morning at 16, I kid you not, I never missed. My mom was with me every
what?
day. Yeah, from 16 onward, we never skipped, we never missed. Weekends, we do it a little later, but we did it every day. And I wasn't getting results. So I decided to start doing 2-a-days. I'd run in the afternoon, and I was pushing my body in many ways at a young age because that was the only thing I knew to do. And back then, while Google was a thing, it wasn't like huge. It wasn't like where we went to. We still had to cite books and sources like that. So I was just going with what I had seen my parents do and all the things. I think if I think back right, I probably stole some ephedra from my parents' jars back in the day
My
when that was a thing. Yeah,
gosh.
like the things I did at 16, like I totally understand. And I actually left high school 20 pounds heavier than the day I started. So I often point that out to people because I was doing all the things and they hear I'm doing all the things and this should be working and that really helps. I was 16. My metabolism should have been kicking. I should have easily been able to lose the weight with all the things, but it didn't happen. And probably why I started to be a dietitian, because what other better way to control food and eating than to become the dietitian, right? So I went to college, and in college, I decided that in order for me to be a dietitian, I had to play the part. So I quickly took on a very quick eating disorder because my cousin kind of found me out. And the moment she told my mom, I was like, I am not going to one of those camps. I am out. But it took me about 8 weeks, pretty much the day after Thanksgiving, I vowed to do it. And shortly after the new year, my mom approached me, and I had lost the 25 pounds that I wanted to lose. But at that moment, I was scared to death to gain it back. So I ate very little in college. I worked out for 3 or 4 hours a day. And even getting my nutrition degree and then becoming a dietitian, I didn't really know much more than the tools I had been giving, right? I knew a lot about food, about your body, but not really from a standpoint of owning my body, right? So after about a year of being a dietitian, when I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, joining the Navy as a dietitian in the very beginning, I set foot in the Navy and I thought, okay, well, what would make me stand out? So I got my personal training certificate and group exercise, spin, all that good stuff. Thoroughly loved that, but it only dove me further into my excessive exercise disorder, truthfully. I taught 10 spin classes a week. I taught 4 boot camp classes a week. Yeah. And then when they offered me to pick up 4 more spin classes, I said yes. So I was teaching 20 classes per week, exercise-wise. And believe it or not, me not really knowing, because I was also enjoying my life, I gained all 20 pounds back with the excessive exercise. And that really sent me through a head spin. And that's when I really dove in further. Like, something is missing. Okay. You can't just have the nutrition and the personal training. Something has to be there. So it was around then that I had also dabbled with, I got a massive infection in my back when I was in my early 20s, like 24-ish. I grew an infection in my spine, and I actually was told that I had to go on 6 months of antibiotics during that time. That helped me to lose 20 pounds again really fast, which was really cool, because then I was able to then go back to what I was doing to keep that off. Not healthy again, but like, we're like, woohoo, I got the flu, I lost 6 pounds. Okay, right? The unhealthy level of thinking like this is healthy for my body in any way is so funny. But then I also had been diagnosed with GERD when I was in my early teens. And I guess it went unnoticed. Either I didn't have it or something, but I wound up with a cyst on my vocal cords, and I sounded like a very raspy smoker. And they had me have surgery on my vocal cords to have it removed. All of which I can now correlate to food, the way I was treating my body, and truthfully not understanding what was going on internally. And that's where arrived me to, okay, it's deeper. I learned energy work, I learned nervous system work, and went further into it, because to me, the body was really this thing. Like, I go to the doctor and he tells me. I go to, a youth minister of mine a long, long time ago told me that it was not okay for me to touch myself. And so all of these pieces had led me to, well, okay, well, if this hurts, I'm not really, like, even just touching my arm, like, I'm not allowed to touch myself. He really ingrained that into my head when I was going through my youth minister days, right? And so between all those things, it was like, okay, this person can help me or that person can help me, but I had no clue what my inside was trying to tell me. Like, body is such a huge piece. And now I've really arrived at this place to explaining to people that I am not telling you you don't need a doctor. I'm not telling you that you don't need outside help. What I am saying is that you can be the person that goes to your doctor like, I know something is wrong with me, because you're so in tune deeply to your body. I've had women that have literally found out they had cancer, like at the moment that it was conceived. They were like, it barely even registers that you do, because they're so in touch, they can almost feel the tweak. I don't know if you've ever read Will Smith's book. Love his book. But Will Smith's book, in this chapter, Jada and him are just dating. And right after they had sex, she goes, I'm pregnant. I know it. I felt it. I'm pregnant. She was right. That woman was in touch with her body. So Will was like, you are not, you just think it, blah, blah, blah. Literally, like 2 weeks later, she was like, the test is I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. Like,
Oh
right?
my God. Oh, I have chills.
Right. That is you being in touch with your body. Like I've had other friends that are women that were like, I knew the moment that we did, I was like, I'm pregnant. I can just tell. And they were, right? So that is where I want you to get, but I want you to get that way with food, right? That's where I am. It's like, absolutely not. I'm not even going to put that in my mouth because I know what's going to happen. Or I really want to eat that and I know what's going to happen and I accept my consequences, right? So
Mm.
that's the way. Like it's, you still have a mind, you still have a desire. It's not like you can take that out, but you consciously get to decide, you and your body. So
Ooh. Oh, there's so much juiciness in what you shared. Um, wow. Okay, first, thank you for your service. Appreciate that. This whole idea of what we're programmed, what we're taught, how we're conditioned, not being enough, and sometimes being erroneous, of course, and how you described it, meaning, great, I've got the exercise thing down pat. I've got the dietary planning down pat, but something is still off. You crack the code for yourself by bringing in more of a holistic way of being in tune with your body, despite the conditioning that you had, where you were told, don't ever touch your body. Like, that's not you. It almost felt like when you were saying that, I just kept imagining, like, oh, I don't have authority over my own body. I don't have sovereignty over my own body. Like that belongs to someone else. It's a really disembodied way to live. And I know that there are so many women, and yes, so many corporate women, and so many Black corporate women who live a very disembodied life. Because I'm thinking about when I was in corporate, I could go a whole day and not eat because I'm just back to back to back to back to back. Like things are happening. I'm commuting, or when I started working from home full time over a decade ago, just especially like I'm just glued. And I was doing all the exercise. I was a Middle Eastern dance teacher. I've always been in dance. And I was a cheerleader in high school. Like my metabolism was high, but like, listen, the swole was coming. Like it was still happening. And yeah, part of that is a function of like a sedentary lifestyle, but I was still working out and moving and all of that. It sounds like what you're saying the code was for you was stepping outside of what was traditional and stepping outside of what you had been taught and conditioned. And it really involved like being energetically and intuitively in tune with your body, like Jada knowing, like, oh, I'm pregnant. Like your friends you talk to, like, oh, there's a baby in here. Oh, cancer just arrived in my body. Like knowing that. How do you crack that code? How do you find a way to be that in tune with your body so that we can be more informed and in our sovereignty when we go to see a doctor or a healer or a dietitian?
yeah. So I term the code, the word digestion code is how I teach from my perspective. And one of the big pieces that misses when you go see a doctor or when you go outside of you is that you're 90%, I'll give there a window, aren't actually asking you if you've even heard of your vagus nerve, if you've heard of like stress healing, everything that you just explained, you've shut the mechanism off. Now, I don't blame you for just corporate. You learned the ability to do this much, much, much earlier. So from a young age, we can be conditioned into this. People that are like, I'm just not hungry, that say that, and then they maybe eat one meal a day. I believe that becomes conditioned from a very young age. Like we literally can understand now that if you were a young baby and let's say mom wasn't with it, so mom wasn't feeding you consistently, or mom wasn't taking care
Mm,
of you, or you were unable to get food, or you're a twin and so they fed you on schedule. No, your brother's not eating, you can't eat. Okay, your sister's eating, you have to eat, right? Like if you're conditioned to that, or like, no, we eat at this time, I don't care, it's an hour early and you're starving, you must wait. Or you go
mm,
to school and you try to go to the bathroom. It's time to go to the bathroom. You go, you're unable to. 10 minutes later, you have to. And the teacher says, you just went. No, right? Like all of those things are then put into our system to go, okay, my body tells me this, but you tell me that. So I must be wrong because I'm little. So you're right, I'm wrong, my body's
Mm,
wrong, and I silence it. Then when we get older, we just become quicker at using the mechanism. And that's why you're saying, as a corporate worker, I can sit here all day and sit, right? Like I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't drink, I wouldn't go to the bathroom. And then all of a sudden, when I'm finally at that spot to go, it's like, okay, I need to pee, I need to eat, and I got to get out of here. Like, right. And it's like everything was still there. You were just able to silence it. Now, that piece is so tied to vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve controls your metabolism, it controls your gut, your second brain. Now, your second brain being your gut, that controls how you digest food, how you absorb food, what you take in, what your body's going to do with it. People are like, well, I eat a really healthy diet when I eat it, but I'm not seeing results. Yeah, because you're so stressed that the
mm,
food cannot nearly combat all the toxins you're putting in the rest of the time. So that is pinnacle piece of this, as well as like how I said, oh, I know that's not for me. I
yeah.
teach an energetic way for you to also learn like that food is just not for me. Or I want an apple as you're presented a bowl of apples, but I'm going to turn and take this apple because this one's for me, but those ones aren't, right? And so the key is you have had this internal knowing. Like we could all have that story. I mentioned this in some of my posts, is that I fell asleep at the dinner table once because I was like, I am not eating that. I refuse to eat that. My mom was like, you will eat it. And I fell asleep head first on the table. She eventually let me go to bed without eating. But I was like, I just refuse. Like it was one of those things like I refuse. She got over it. I never had to eat it again. But back then it was like, you at least try a bite. You at least do something, right?
Hmm.
Versus, okay, I respect that you don't like that. If your husband came to you and was like, I don't like that, I'm not going to eat it, you're going to be like, you're going to take one bite no matter what. But we do that to our children, right? We expect to know better versus that. And so with that mentality floating around in our subconscious, it's impossible not to. So part of it has to be also like, how were you conditioned? Maybe it wasn't your parents, maybe you had a sound upbringing, but the moment you got to school, you had that teacher that was like, no, you only get to go to the bathroom when it's time to go to the bathroom. You're not missing class, right? If there's an emergent time to go and you're shutting down your internal system, your body can go into that without you ever replaying it. It's like, okay, I'm in this class. Now my body just goes shut down. Now it doesn't just shut down the need to go to the bathroom. It shuts down your metabolism. It shuts down your second brain. It shuts down all of that. And that's playing out. That's a part of the code. That's a part of your digestion code. You can't control that with portion controlling, meal planning, exercise, dieting. That is all internal, subconscious, and a process we don't control. So that's why I always say it's most pinnacle to learn what happens after you swallow. Everything you do before, it doesn't
Mm.
matter. The second brain is controlling. The second brain is controlled from the subconscious. And if you don't know what's going on in that, no matter what you do outside, it's not going to play inside. So that's really a big, huge piece of truthfully stepping into like, what is my code? What is my body telling me? And it can start as simple as, I'm listening to you guys talk right now and I need to pee. So hit pause and go to the bathroom, or put your headphone in and go to the bathroom, like that is a great way for your body to be like, wait, she listened? What do you mean she listened?
Mm.
It's a
Ooh,
pattern interrupt. It's a pattern interrupt. I listened to my body.
I really love everything you're saying. And this whole idea around creating a different relationship with your body where you're listening to your body and paying attention to what your body, I refer to my body as a she, but so when she speaks, I've learned to listen, but just when you said that, I was bringing up so many times where I was miserable because I was consciously aware that I'm not listening to my body. And I'm like,
Mhm.
girl, hush. We have to sit here. We got to get through this whole presentation. And if my stomach growled because I was hungry, I'm like, shut up. Like, because I'm embarrassed and whatnot. Like, stop. Like, she's talking literally. She's telling me, would you go in there and get something? Like, eat something. Or I do remember many times when I would be traveling all over the world and like I didn't want to be in the little bathroom on the airplane. It's like, I'm just, we gonna ride this one out.
Yep.
this, we're just gonna figure this out. And then you got jumbled up belly for the next couple of days whenever you arrive because everything's off. and you're dehydrated because I'm not drinking my water because I don't want to have to go to the bathroom. It's like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, what if we did just surrender to the body's wisdom? Like she knows what she needs, she knows what she doesn't need and what she doesn't want. And I'm just curious, like how do we get ourselves, particularly as women who tend to self-sacrifice for everyone else, um, how do we get to a place where we prioritize like me first? My needs have to come first so that I can take care of all of the things and be better for everything and everybody around us. That's really hard. I know just from being a Black woman, but also from my research, like it's really hard for Black women, especially, let alone if you're a mother or a caretaker of elderly parents. Like it's a lot. So, how do you get to the place of going, I have to prioritize my needs first?
Yeah, so I've always liked but disliked the thing of like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? People are like you can't pour from an empty cup, and I'm like, well, maybe, but then but Jesus could change the water, like make tons of water and bread and stuff. So we all know that that comes from manifestation, sharing, things like that. So I've liked it, but I'm like, okay, I understand that my cup might be empty, but my 3-year-old is throwing a fit and I'm going to answer to him so the fit stops, right? So I like the example better of we get concerned about our children. Like, are they eating right? Are they drinking right? Are they doing this? I need to be there for them. They need this. They need that. Right? It's all
Yeah.
our children, or like you said, elderly parents, or our husband. And we get to the point where we don't want to disappoint. But truthfully, the thing that we don't want to hear is that if we looked at ourselves literally and went back generations, most likely the parents before us did the same. At what age did we convert where we have to come second, right? Was it the day we conceived the baby? Was it the day we got married? Was it the day that we joined a corporate world? What is it, right? Okay. And so, truthfully, women that come to me know deeply that I want to heal generations. I want to stop the
Mm,
trend. And I don't care if you give your kid the healthiest diet in the world. If you're there for them every single second of every single day, the moment they choose to live another life, the only pattern they have of adulthood is you. So they'll live your life and not the life you wanted them to live. So you
mm,
have to lead by example. And that's typically where I get it. People, my mom was great, with food. That one time, I think that's the one time that it really happened. So I remember the memory. But we weren't forced to eat. If we didn't like it, she's like, okay, you know how to make a peanut butter and jelly, make it yourself. She would say that. She wouldn't do it. She would never cater to us. But if we chose not to eat, she'd allow us to eat something else. Right. And so I remember that about her. You know how to do that. Go help yourself. And that really stuck out in my mind, such as, I'm not going to cater to your needs, but I do understand you may not like what I want, or that something I've cooked. Okay. And like even her, she hated asparagus, but my dad loved it. So she'd make asparagus and spinach because she preferred spinach and my dad didn't. So it was like, I will do it then when I really want spinach, he gets asparagus kind of thing. Right.
mm-hmm.
So it's, I guess, a yin and a yang. But as I try to go from this, is that it's you and your life with food. You can't run from it if you have a poor body image, if you don't feel good in your body, if you're
Mm,
ignoring yourself. Your child learns to do that because we learn by pattern recognition. We learn you're not doing it. We learn you're not eating. We learn we're sitting down for breakfast, but you're working, not eating with us. We learn that at dinner time, you might not be present, or you might eat very little, or you shovel all the food in your mouth because you're starving. We will relive the patterns. We don't know. It's not like it's sort of, I mean, like in brain patterns, right? So we're taught from a young age how to act. And that is,
mm,
our background, our patterns that are living in our subconscious mind. Well, during that phase, we watched you at that age. So we become you.
mm,
I shared this a little while ago, but I just processed them in my late 30s. I'm 38 and a half. And I think it was when I said it out loud, well, I'm 38. Well, I guess 38 and a half. I was like, wow, I'm in like my late 30s. I didn't process that. The moment I did, I swear, my mom said when her and my grandma got to their late 30s, they had a few issues with bowel movements. Within 2 weeks, I had some issues with my bowel movements. And I was like, huh,
Stop.
isn't that interesting? Because my brain just connected my mom saying that over and over when I was a child. I was like, I haven't done anything different. I haven't eaten anything different. But now it has to be, it was more of a conscious paying attention to like, is
Yeah.
my body telling me something else? It was more of a pattern interrupt. So I had to do different techniques to help myself to have that pattern interrupt of like, no, we're still in control here. If something needs to shift, give me more of a sign here, talk to me, let me know what's going on, kind of thing. But
Mm.
that's where I really think that parents can do the most, like heal yourself to heal your kids' generations and all the ones after that. When we
Wow.
start going to the bathroom when we have to and drinking water when we have to, our kids are going to be like, oh, I get to too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get to too.
Nothing beats modeling. And
Yeah.
I love that you're bringing this up. It feels like we get to shift how we look at this whole thing. It's not about diets and fad diets and oh, I'm just going to drink lemon juice and cayenne pepper and like just whatever the stuff is, right? It's like, ooh, this is legacy work. I'm healing my whole lineage. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. As
And
you,
no, 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 go
yeah.
ahead.
I was going to say, as you saw in that post, women are taught to hate their bodies from day one, right? When you're a young
Yes.
girl, it's like, wait till you get your period. Then you get your period. Oh, now you got no control. You don't know when it's going to start. Don't wear white shorts. You never know when you're going to bleed. Always have a
Oh,
tampon ready. And then the one time you don't, you're like, dang it. But then you're kind of embarrassed to ask or whatever. So then you're like, okay, you're right. I really do hate this girl thing. So now I'm never going to wear white shorts because you never really know at whatever, okay. And then you go ahead, you get married, and people are like, oh, you'll gain 10, 15 pounds because you're just so happy. It's okay. Then you get pregnant and you have a baby, and it's like your body's totally not yours. I remember being pregnant with Lily and the doctor being like, you will never have your body back. And I'm like, doesn't that
wow.
even just sound like
That's
death trap?
depressing.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, here's perimenopause. Let's add another type of menopause that brings us to menopause, to postmenopause. It's like, where in our lives are we ever taught, ooh, I get to love my body now? Instead, it's like,
Mm,
dread the next thing and note your body is this thing out here that some doctor is going to provide help for, right? So I can go to the doctor, I can get my periods less through these hormones, right? I
yeah.
can go to this doctor who's going to help me to surgically remove extra skin or something from having a baby. I'm not judging any of these things if you do them. It's more like, okay, I'm always going to the outside source. Now I'm in this perimenopause thing. So I need to get these hormone controls or tons of supplements or things to regulate. Why is that? Why is it that way? Why is it that way? We have learned through science, people can heal diseases that are uncurable. And it's like, we can do that with our own body when we own it. When we're like, yes, I'm a woman. Yes, these things happen, right? Yes, I did accidentally wear white shorts today and I had my period. It happens. It's life. I'm not embarrassed. It is, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
good thing we invented bleach, I guess, like, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so it's like, to me, that is the deep work, is like providing women, like embracing like this period thing. Yeah, it kind of stinks, sure. But what it means is you get to be a mom if you want to be a mom. If you want to be a mom, you get to bring a baby into this world. And what isn't more beautiful than that? If you're called for that, right? And if you do
Mm,
have a baby, like, why isn't it amazing? Like, look at how amazing your body is supporting this baby, not like, how big did you get? How much did you gain? Oh, you gained that much. Oh, that's way more than I gained.
yeah.
You
And how
know,
quickly can you get that weight
lose
off?
it.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
your
It took
body
me
just
10 months to
created a
put it
whole
on.
human.
Yes. Yeah. 10 months to put it on, but you better have it off in a month. Good luck to you,
You
It's
better.
like, it's like, what miracle drug is that? Am I allowed to take it while I'm breastfeeding? Like,
That is
anyways, yeah. So,
wild. Yeah, there's so much shame that we get placed on us. And I love that you're sending the message like, come back inward. Like let's have some sovereignty from the inside out instead of
mhm.
from the outside in. I love that you're sharing that. Two more things I want to have you pour into all of us with. One is, have you noticed, if you have noticed any cultural differences among women that would be important to bring up or to note? Can you share, maybe one thing? And particularly if you have anything for Black women's bodies and various cultures of Blackness. Um, so that's one. And then two, I'll reserve two for after that one. Let's go with that one for now.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things I've observed, and I live in Spain, so I see their culture as well. Like, it depends where we're at. There was in the culture I was brought up in the Midwest, it was like skinny model type in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
90s was who you were supposed to be like. But as I started to gander out and meet more people, I would see like one of my greatest friends from my college days. She really embraced her curves. But when you spoke to her, she was an African American woman. When you spoke to her, she hated her body. So, from what I've understood, is in her mind, her mother taught her to embrace that, right? We're just thick. We're just thick, or
Mm-hmm.
we just are big, or we have the curves. But she truthfully didn't feel healthy in her body. But health was taken from a different world from her. To lose the curves, to lose the I'm thick made her different. So it's the pattern I've truthfully seen is which way you were kind of grown up, right? Were you embraced for being bigger as a big thing? Was it thick being bigger? The other really big cultural differences I see is what types of food were provided. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
For sure.
were you becoming aware that, like, was your mom or dad, or, I've never said this to my kids for one day in my life, that this is bad for us, but we're eating it anyways. Ever. No. My daughter will be like, is this healthy? Or is this good? Or is this bad? And I'm like, we don't use those words. It just has different nutritional value. Yes, the apple has more nutritional value than the piece of chocolate, per se. Yes and no. Depends which way you look at the nutrition. What are you comparing in it, And like, I can go into all those angles, but most of us were taught we ate bad food. Well, then as we grow up, if we were taught we were raised in a poor area, or we're raised in a certain area where we got lack of something, now that's programmed into our brains and we're
Mm-hmm.
living that out, right? And that's really where I see the biggest difference, is when you mentally know that something needs to shift, but it's almost frowned upon and you'd be segregated from everybody else if you were to shift that about yourself. And I really think that it's culturally different for each different, like, where did you grow up? And it's also like, did you grow up in New York? Did you grow up in the Midwest? Did you grow up in Florida? What ethnic background were you? And each
Mm-hmm.
one of us has a different story that we're really playing out.
Yeah, really good points. Thank you for bringing that up. The other question I want to ask you is really more around that relationship with your body, that relationship with self. So you've been through a lot. Hearing those messages that were shared with you when you were really young and in high school, it's heartbreaking to imagine a child hearing those things, right? And to see you now, like, this is a woman who stands completely in ownership of all of her beauty, all of her strength, all of her health, all of her wisdom. That's a long journey to get there. And so I'm sure you're human and you have your moments like, ugh, I don't feel the best right now. I'm going to ask you, like, what's your go to song that when you play it, you're like, I'm beautiful. I am magnificent. Oh my gosh. Look at my body. I'm banging. Okay. I'm probably showing my age. I don't know all the latest slang words and all that.
I would
I'm
have
of
said
a
it the same
different
way.
era. But like, yeah, like I'm the bomb. Like, yeah, I'm all of that. Oh, I love myself. I feel great about me. Like, what is your go to song?
So I'm looking up her name so that way I remember, but it's called I Love Myself, or Love Myself, by Haley Steinfeld. If you listen to the words, it is truthfully her loving herself. I'm going to put that in quotes. It's literally her loving herself, but she's like, I love me, I love myself, and nobody's really going to take it away from me. And like, yes, when you listen to the verses, I understand what's happening in it. But if you think about body awareness, that's actually pure truth, right? It almost goes against what I was taught from my youth minister of my body is not mine to touch. My body is for something else. And
Mm.
that's, I think, why I love it, because it's so interesting, because I think even at that moment, I wasn't even able to self-soothe myself, kids self-soothe, they suck their fingers, or they, do things, or some kids will like hold themselves. A lot of people, when they're self-soothing, will rub their upper thighs, right? They'll do
Hmm.
that to self-soothe. Even that became a no go for me, because I was like, am I
Wow.
not supposed to do this? Is this not acceptable? So it was almost like I was this like robot of a person of like, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I use my body at this point? And that's why I love that song, because it's just like I embrace every single thing and everything that I learned to get me here, and every part of the story to own it. And yes, even when I'm having that, because we always will still have that day where you were like, I am loaded and I don't feel good. Okay. But I'm still doing the thing. On those days, I do play it, and I play it a little bit more often, because it's like I do love myself, and I understand that this is all part of the amazingness that made me a woman, so I could have the two kids that I have. So looking
Oh,
at it from
I
all
love
angles.
that.
Thanks.
Love myself. All right, I'm gonna go check that one out. I'm not familiar with that one, but I'm gonna go check that song out. And I know everyone watching and listening is like looking that up too. So thank you for sharing that with us. Oh, this has been such a joy, so much fun. It's always cool when I get to be in space with you and share some presence time with you. Thank you for all of the wisdom you've poured out into all of us. And thank you so much for generously creating an offer that we all get to take advantage of. Will you just tell me really quickly, or tell all of us really quickly, what it is you want to offer us?
Yeah, so I want you to learn more about your digestion code process for you and for people that want to listen to more. I created a master class uniquely for this. That's about 40 minutes of a recording that I have for you, but I also have a written format. And the off chance you're like, I would really just prefer to read, because I totally understand. So I let you pick your fancy to learn more about your digestion code and uncovering those pieces about what's happening in your body after you swallow.
That sounds amazing. I know there are so many women who are already like, where's the link? How do I get it? So thank you so much for offering that. This is going to be such a blessing for anyone listening, and particularly for these corporate Black women who I know are wrestling with a whole lot of the things that you shared today. So I want to thank you again for joining me in this sister chat. I cannot wait to share with you all the amazing comments that I know we're going to get in response to our conversation today. And so, for everyone watching and listening, if you want to know more about anything that Leslie is talking about, all of her contact details will be in the notes, her full bio, and the link to her free offer. The Digestion Code Masterclass will also be there. And so I'll ask you all to tune in and see what you can learn, take your time with it, and fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with your body, and Leslie will be there to help guide you. So, Leslie, thank you so much. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait for our next sister chat, which will be just the two of us, kind of behind closed doors that we get to have. But for now, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Sending you lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.